Podcast is live. Here we go. Welcome, students, to Monk Meditation, the show of monks, by monks, and for monks in the world of Warcraft. This week, we discuss some tips on the big old dino Horidon, dive into proving grounds in the PTR, Sunyer gives a Brewmaster 101 class, and it's a Mistweaver on the Change roller coaster. This is Monk Meditation, Episode 1. Hello, my monk brothers and sisters. Open a Tiger Eye Brew, Mana Tea, or Purifying Brew. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride we're about to take you on. My name is Chai T, a Windwalker monk on Airy Peak, US. I've brought together a crack team of monk aficionados. Let's meet them now. Starting off in the cool, clean air of Colorado, our resident brewmaster extraordinaire, Sunyer. How are you?
I'm good. I'm Sunyer from Frustration on Friendless US.
All right, next we move to the wacky state of Florida, where we have the Mistweaver that keeps me up and kicking on my raid team, Rolling Thunder, Daikatsu. How you doing, man?
Oh man, it's so good to be back. 2 weeks is a little too long.
Well, we'll see if we have more content to move a little bit closer. All right, from the land of the rising sun, we have the one, the only, the monk father himself, Air. How you doing, man?
Konnichiwa from Nagoya, Japan, everyone. Happy to be here. Hi, nice to see you again. Let's talk some monk stuff.
Indeed. All right, and last and certainly not least, another Mistweaver from Florida. Must be something in the water over there. We've got Naoyuki.
Confucius say,
Uh-oh.
Tauren monk that heals an ocean loves manatee. No? You get it, right? Because a Tauren's a cow in the ocean, a manatee's a sea cow, and he's a monk, and he loves manatee.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty clever.
That works on a few
I
different
got it.
I actually like that one. How sad is that? I actually like that one.
It was actually inspirational by Daikatsu on a tweet. I saw a manatee. I'm like, oh, I got to do one.
All right.
Glad I could help a little bit.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to know the hosts a little bit. I'm going to ask you a question. Why monk? Why did you choose the class? Katsu, I'm going to go to you first.
Well, I've really been playing since about the beginning of Wrath. That's when I got serious into the game. But I loved healing, so throughout Cataclysm I played a druid, and then suddenly they're like, "Hey, druids, you need to start dropping these mushrooms all over the place," and I didn't like that at all. You know, I like my AOE to be focused on a person, not on a mushroom. So I decided, well, monk looks good. Started rolling one, and eventually I preferred logging into the monk over the druid. The druid is still in like blues.
Okay. All right. Air, what brought you to the Windwalker class?
Well, I'm a relatively new player. I started at the very tail end of Cataclysm. So I played a paladin originally, had a lot of fun. When I saw that Mist was coming out, paid a lot of attention to the new class, rolled one on day one, and kind of haven't looked back since. Been too much fun to put down.
Yeah, you can't stop it. All right, now Yuki, why monk for you?
Well, I've been playing since like late BC, early Lich King, and I've played every class, but I've always been fond of healers. In Cat, I played every healer class there was because there was time to play alts at the time. And when MLP came out, I was instantly hooked from the playstyle to the animations to the lore. I just fell in love with the monk class, and I'm happy to play monk.
All right. And Sunyer, what brought you to the Master of the Brews?
Well, I've always loved the kind of monk playstyle in a lot of games. You have a squishy avoidance-based character that can heal themselves, And once Blizzard announced it, I was just like, man, I gotta get my hand on this, and especially because I played a feral druid for a very long time, and after 6 years of looking at that big furry bear butt, I decided to swap to a cuter bear butt.
Hard to argue.
Yeah, it was somewhat similar to me. The bear butt didn't really bring much into it, but I've always loved monk archetypes in different games, so it's always been the one I've gravitated towards. So I played in Wrath of the Lich King. I played a enhancement shaman, the monks before there were monks, and then as soon as a monk class was announced, I started doing monk meditation because I knew this was going to be a class I would always play. So I've played pretty much every class except for paladin and priest at this point. But monk is where I'm going, and that's my main from here on out. I don't think they'll ever be able to bring me away from it. Okay, so let's go into
Storm, Earth, and Fire.
Storm, Earth, and Fire as we talk about our rating progression. So we'll start with Chai Tea and Daikatsu. Rolling Thunder. We rocked
Rolling
it.
strong.
Yes. Primordius and Dark Animus, both down this week. And I also felt like Darumu was progression too, even though we had already beat him.
Well, Darumu is a special boss. I think at this point we've got 80 wipes and 2 kills, so it's not farm yet.
No.
Primordius, I think we killed him, but we kind of fell asleep during it, because when you just do the sit and kill, it's kind of boring.
Yeah, it's... For gas, I know I was loving that mana turret. All right, now Yuki, you got some raiding in too, didn't you?
Yeah, I got invited to a raid team. Rex tweeted me, asked me what I wanted in a raid. I just told him, casual, a little bit of progression. He's like, hey, join our alt team. So I joined the team 26 gold, and we got Jinrock and Horidon down.
Nice. Horidon is a rough fight, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
All right, how's the Salad Senate doing, Air?
So, Salad Senate, 25-man raid team in CTR. We were able to, this week we worked on Majera. Had a little bit of trouble at first, but ended up getting him down, and then we spent the rest of our an hour and a half on G Kun. Didn't quite work out. Came back the next day, realized we had the wrong strategy. We were actually missing a nest, so, because, planning 25-man, we went with 5 different groups of people, each doing 2 nests, and this, that, and the other, and last full of the night, got down G Kun, so real excited for that.
Yeah, I imagine G Kun with 25-man is actually quite complicated. 10-man is not too hard.
No, it's a 10-man. You can do a single nest team if you want. You get a lot of extra feathers for people to get the buff, but with 25, you have 2 nests coming up a lot quicker, always sending people on the move, so yeah.
All right, and Sunnier, you're going to make us all feel bad, aren't you?
Yeah, well, my guild frustration just got Heroic Animus down, finally. That boss is it's very interesting, but it was a relief to say goodbye to him, and we're finally working on Heroic Lation, which is a very fun and end-style fight. Looking forward to it.
Congratulations. How far have you gotten in Heroic now? What's your number?
I always forget how many bosses I just here. So 11 out of 13.
11 out of 13.
Wow.
Nice. Oh, so you've downed pretty much every boss now except for Lei Shen and Horidon, right?
Yep. Yeah, you can
Wow.
only do Heroic Lation after you've killed everything else on Heroic.
Oh, okay. That's interesting how they do that.
Yeah, he just
All right,
doesn't show up.
You just go to the platform. It's like, wow, this is nice.
Where is he? That happened a few times. So.
All right. Well, let's move on to Horidon, as we said before.
Fists of Fury.
Oh, you weren't doing it this time. I switched.
No, not this time.
All right. Well, Fist of Fury is where we go over the different rating tips. So we go over the bosses from a monk perspective and see what tips and tricks we can give you to bust those meters and make the monk class look as awesome as they are. All right. We're going to start off with the Brewmaster. This I've done Brewmaster on this fight, and I like it. I like it a lot.
It's a lot of fun. It's really tough. I had a lot of people sending me emails early in the progression cycle asking me how to do this fight. Just because it requires a lot of managing your ranged pickup tools, which Brewmasters have, but not quite. They're not like your traditional pickup tools. But it's a lot of fun to try to figure out how to work on all those AoE ads while also working on your own survival against that giant dinosaur that deals a lot of damage.
Yeah, I got lucky when I was tanking this one because I had a paladin tank that was main tanking Horidon the whole time. So I was just on ads the whole time, which is really easy to do with Dizzying Haze and your Ox statue. It's when you're swapping between Horidon and the ads that it gets a little tricky. So, all right, what other tips you got for Brewmasters to win at this fight?
Well, I think some of the best talents to go in there is Rushing Jade Wind for the ranged ad pickup, because there's always two ads that spawn far apart, and then you need to pick up one with a taunt and then pick the other one up with something else. Ring of Peace or Charging Oxwave are really good for controlling those ads. Not all of them are stunnable or disarmable or silenceable, but the little guys are. And also the disarm from Ring of Peace works later on War God, which is very nice too.
Yeah, we had
and then
3 monks in our group when we were up against War God, so it's like he had no weapon the whole time.
Yeah, it's really cool.
All right,
And
what else we got here?
similarly, Dampen Harm, if you're on the dinosaur for the triple punctures, that helps quite a bit. Another thing is to drop the statue near the spawn points when you're on ads, because that way the ads will gravitate toward the statue instead of some poor healer that happened to be standing near them. And that helps for like just the split second before they peel off, but it's enough.
One thing I will say, though, about that statue is it got me in trouble a couple times. Make sure you're communicating with your other tank to make sure that they are tanking Horidon far enough away.
Oh, yeah.
If you
Horidon
use
has a
that
huge range. Like,
Yeah.
really don't do it unless you're 100% sure. Like, the taunt,
And
don't do that.
if it's further away, you can use that AoE taunt and get all those ads. But if it's close, you wipe the raid, as I did. All right. We'll go on to Windwalker. This is a very interesting fight for Windwalker.
There's a lot of ads to pick up, and you can do a couple different strategies, some more popular than the other. As far as the stuff that you should always be working on is on the second, third doors, you can cure poisons and diseases and detox, so definitely help out where you can. I think Decursive is a really good mod to help out with that.
Absolutely.
Monks, you can you got the Windwalkers have disarm ability, which is nice. You want to use that as much as possible because you do get that 5% damage increase from doing that. And at the same time, Ring of Peace is really good, just for AoE disarm. You do want to be careful though, because I believe it's on the Drakari door with the Frozen Warlords. If you disarm them all, if you disarm them all, and they do their Mortal Strike, that all kind of syncs up together, and if your tank's not ready for that, it can get to kind of a gib fest. So just want to be careful when you're doing that. If you're on door number 1, kind of going backwards now. Door number 1, remember Nimble Brew. If you happen to get stunned with the
Basilisk guy.
The Basilisk, yeah. If you happen to get stunned, Nimble Brew out of that, no problem. And Diffuse Magic is a really good talent if you happen to get the Sunfire debuff on you. If you're caught inside of a Venom Diffusion or near the orbs, pop on Diffuse Magic, reduce that damage, and get out of there.
Absolutely, and it will clear that Sunfire off of you too. So if you can wait until the very end, until the last one's down, you can save the healer a dispel, which is nice.
Yeah, it's a good, it's on that longer cooldown, so you get one free dispel with that.
Right. And an advanced strategy on this one, if you outgear it, or if your raid leader is okay with it, on door number 3 and 4, Storm, Earth, and Fire can significantly increase your DPS. The reason behind this is that Horidon gains a damage debuff, or I guess buff, after each door. So after the third one, you're doing an extra, or actually the second one, you're doing an extra 100% damage, and the third, after you beat the third one, it's 150%. So that will translate to your clones. So if you can do it quickly with a macro, with like a focus macro, you can stick your clones onto the ads that you're trying to prioritize and do damage to Horidon. So you're staying on Horidon pretty much the whole time. And if you're quick with it, you can actually do you can do the same amount of damage, actually with a little bit more, to both Horidon and the ad at the same time, which is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it's something I've been trying out, something I've been reading about in the forums. I'm personally still up in the air about it. That's still how it's working in theory. It seems to, but then it's a lot of extra damage in Horidon, and by the if you're using a lot of Storm, Earth, and Fire, you're losing the global cooldowns, but you are gaining a lot of AOE damage as well. Especially if you're able to get the ads tanked in one area, Death Grip. But if you're looking to pad those meters, it's fantastic. If you're looking to make the fight a little more interesting, if you're as on farm, try it out. And if you guys are having no problem with ads, but are having a problem with Horidon at the end, getting the extra damage in Horidon is probably worth a lot.
Yeah, they did a recent nerf to Horidon where all the ads have much less health.
10 man only, yeah.
Yeah, on 10 man. So we found on our team that Horidon is much easier than it used to be. So we've been using this trick. Bruce Willis, when he was with us, tried it, and it was it was very nice after 4, where Horidon had like hardly any health left. And
yeah, your timing's great. It's nice, definitely.
Yeah. All right, let's do the Mistweaver strategy on this. All right, Duke, what you got?
All right, this is a fun fight for Mistweavers because every single door is a different healing fight. First one is your standard, hey, there's a ton of magic debuffs going out. Get rid of them as soon as possible. They're going to stack, they're going to do a lot of damage. Watch out for stuns, those can also be dispelled. This is not a critical door since it's a magic debuff. Every healer can help out. Only healers, though. So don't feel like you need to dispel absolutely everything. Save Revival for door number 2. Door number 2 is where Mistweavers really shine on this, because with Revival, we can get rid of all the poison. Literally. Doesn't matter if it's 10, 25 man, they're gone. You want to wait until the Venom Priests, and if you've got any Venomous Effusions, they got to be down. So typically you're going to heal through the poison debuff and cleanse anyone who might be critically low. Once that's done, hit your Revival. It's just gone. Magically, everyone's topped off. You're running over to door 3 like champs.
This is where Mistweavers are awesome.
It's just not fair. Door number 3 is where things start to break down for most teams, and it's where they tend to hit their progression bottleneck. The stacking disease will hurt. Now, typically, if it's only got 1 stack, no problem, leave it alone. If it's got more than 3, get rid of it. Always, always, always. Now, it's disease. There's only a few classes that can do it. We're among them, so you're going to be practically hovering and using Detox on cooldown in door number 3. It's also a very movement-heavy phase because there's going to be flying orbs flying everywhere, not to mention wherever Horidon is running around doing his double swipe. So this is one in which a druid, a monk, those are going to be the classes that you want to be focused on healing in this door, and it's going to tax you. Once you get to the 4th door, you can kind of relax as a monk because at that point they're throwing out curses, Hex of Confusion. Monks can't decurse it, so you can't do anything. You need a druid, mage, shaman. Those are the only 3 classes that can handle that. If you got one of those 3 in your group, you're good. If you got more than one, you're better. In that one, the only thing you really need to do is avoid the Nova Totems at that point. It's just healing like normal, and you want to make sure that you've got everyone close to topped off when the 4th door comes down. And that's when War God Jala comes out.
Okay, and we'll switch over to Naoki for that. What do you do when War God comes out?
War God, I just run up to him, Ring of Peace, and help disarm. Not only with the Ring of Peace, but we also have the disarm spell, or grapple weapon, I'm sorry. And that also disarms him. So by the time you disarm him twice... Yeah. But by the time you disarm him twice, he should be dead, depending on the DPS. Revival should be available by now. So if anybody's low, because the tank will take huge hits when Jalek has the weapon, you can use a revival. On the Horidon burn, you want to keep as many renewing mists as possible. You could use Zen Sphere on the tank during the swap. I personally prefer Chi Burst. That's, what's preferable for me. But you want to focus on Renewing Mist and Uplift if the raid is taking lots of damage, which they shouldn't be. I have a question for Duke, actually, on this fight.
Yes, sir.
You said you use Revival on the 2nd door. I found it better on my team last night to use it on the 3rd door. Because on the 2nd, I was using Detox, and everybody was staying up. Nobody was taking a lot of damage. Most of the damage was on the 3rd door because of the frozen orbs and the stacks on the diseases. So what I did was I saved it for the 3rd door and used Revival then. Is that bad or not recommended?
No, it's perfectly fine. If the 3rd door is where you're having your bottleneck, then save Revival for that. Revival is your, oh my god, we're all going to, what happened? We're all fine now. That's what Revival does. So door number 2 is a good one to use it on because it just cleanses poison. That's what we do it on because at this point the fight's on farm for us, so it's just get rid of poison, run off, get to the next door. We've got enough classes that can cleanse the disease and keep everyone topped off.
Right.
If your raid team is having trouble, is the 3rd door, save Revival for that 3rd door. Keep it clear, especially if your tank and a few other people are getting low or there's just frozen orbs flying everywhere.
Right, because I was reading up on strats, and I used it on the 2nd door, and we just kept wiping on the 3rd door. And I just saved the Revival for the 3rd one, and we downed the boss. So I think I'm going to stick to that one until it gets a little better. But yeah, it worked for me on the 3rd. So to all the Mistweavers out there, you could use it either on the 2nd or the 3rd, and then it should be up by the 4th, after the 4th for Jalek and Horidon.
Yeah.
If you're getting your interrupts
trick
up.
I can give you. The biggest trick I can give you here is just bring 2 monks. Yeah, you get Revival on both. We actually had a couple weeks where we had both of them, and we just felt completely overpowered.
All right, so. Revival. All right, Revival. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, Revival 2, Revival 3. All right, there we go.
Uplift.
Wow, that was uplifting. All right, so we're going to talk of PTR changes. Last time was all about Windwalkers. This time, I'm going to play a little something. Have there been any real Mistweaver changes?
We're perfect. What can you say?
Have there been any real... Really? Perfect.
We're still perfect. They reverted all the changes.
Yes.
They looked at the changes, they said, oh my god, I can't believe we did this, and reverted it right back. So, yeah, we're fine.
Well, you know what happened was I whispered lore, my Confucius say joke a little bit early. He thought it was funny and just reverted it back, so we're all good.
Well, I think there was a blue post out there that says something like, we're going to make changes related to Mistweaver Mana gameplay in the future. They may not be these specific changes. It's something that's still under heavy discussion. I think you're getting the nerf bat soon.
Well, okay, not soon. Here's what's really going on with Mistweavers. We're the only healing class that looks at Spear and goes, get it away from me.
Right.
was listening to Affinity on the Convert to Raid podcast, and he was saying that he hovers around 6,000 spirit, and even that's too much. He'd actually prefer to have around 2,000 spirit, which I don't even think you could do.
So we're going to steal all the Boom King gear, right?
Pretty much, yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah, it's like,
They're
give me
gonna love
that mage cloth. But that's the reality right now of the synergy between crit and mana tea. With crit, with a high enough crit, you can blow all your healing, hit the free spells that you spend chi on, you get 1 or 2 stacks with mana tea. The higher your crit, the more chances of getting 2 stacks. Once you're out of mana, you drink up your mana tea, you've got at least 80% of your mana back. So that's the main problem that Mistweavers have now. We're just ignoring spirit, and we're not supposed to be, because crit is too damn good. Now, what Lore posted in the forums was, okay, we're going to revert these changes, because it's too involved. You're talking about really trying to balance spell cost and the resources that we need to balance on. Because the spirit in, if you want to think about it at a higher level, spirit is like hit for a DPS. You need a certain amount of spirit in order to be able to have output. So if we're ignoring spirit, we're blowing class balance out of the water. And I don't think a change is coming soon. It's not coming for 5.4. It's probably coming for the next expansion, or if there's a 5.5, we'll see something there. But either way, the way that Mistweavers work right now is under very heavy scrutiny.
Absolutely. So there were some other changes, and Windwalker's got changes again. Thunder Eye Blue, or Tiger Eye Brew, sorry. Yeah, that got changed a little bit too. What did you see, Air?
Well, so the last show we talked about this big change to Tiger's Eye Brew, where they're going from 20 stacks to 30 stacks. You can use 15 at a time, and you get that. You go from 1% base to 6% base. Well, after a bit of thinking, now it's back to we can cap at 20. We use 10 at a time, but at least we get to keep the 6%. We'll see how it goes. I think they're doing it a little bit to keep the 90% damage from really affecting a lot of PvP play, which if you're reading a lot of the forums, you can see a lot of people talking about that. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because right now, the way they're talking about the way Mastery is working is we're setting up about that new Mastery where we can gain extra Tiger's Eye Brew for everyone generated. If we set that up about 50% Mastery, we'll be generating enough stacks every 15 to 30 seconds or so. What that means is that we'll essentially be trying to keep this 60% damage buff up every 15 seconds, which to me is starting to sound like a lot like Inquisition for Pallies. And if that's what they're doing, okay, but it just means we're not going to have that, if we're trying to keep this up all the time, we're not going to have that burst. It's just going to be a level damage thing that we just have to keep up. And yay, no more burst. All right. And skies falling. And, yeah.
This PCR, sky is never falling. It's already falled. All right, let's go through some of these talent changes that have gone through rapid fire. Power Strikes no longer triggers from Keg Smash. Keg Smash is already overpowered as is, as we discussed last time. All right, Chi Brew. This one's a big change. They're trying to make this one's a little bit more reliable, so you actually want to use it. It now restores 2 Chi, has a 45-second cooldown, down from twice that, and generates stacks of brew and teas based on the monk's specializations. So Brewmaster is going to get 5 stacks of Elusive Brew. Mistweaver is going to get 2 stacks of Mana Tea, like you guys need it. Windwalker gets 2 stacks of Tiger Eye Brew. So, Mistweavers, what do you think now? Now, Yuki.
I think it's a good change. I personally like more mana. I'm a mana whore. But, yeah. Like, before when Duke was saying, talking about Affinity, reforging out of Spirit, I'm not sure when I'm supposed to do that, because I'm still reforging into Spirit. I don't know when I should be reforging into Crit. So for me right now, I feel comfortable with more mana. So this new Chi Brew change might be good for me until I get better gear, maybe. But so far, from the looks of it, I like it.
And what about you, Duke?
I actually don't like it as much. One of the main things I like Chi Brew about is that it's an instant 4 Chi. I've got it as a cooldown, and it allows me to toss 2 more uplifts if I need to, especially if I've got 8 or 9 Renewing Mist out for the whole team. Then I've got 4 uplifts, and it's a great burst when you need it, because monks don't really have a lot of good burst. Not on the healing department. Changing it to 2 Chi every 45 seconds is mathematically the same, but the difference is that now it's just 2 Chi when I hit the button. And
Yeah.
I don't need Mana Tea. I end every fight with almost 15 stacks of Mana Tea. I don't
Yeah.
need more.
This seems like it's spreading it out and not allowing it to burst as much.
Exactly, which is weird for a healing class that isn't known for bursting. We're known for steady output.
Well, maybe that's why they're doing it. They want to make sure you're not a burst class. So that might be what they're doing. So, Brewmaster, what do you think about this one, Sonny?
It's definitely a very interesting change. The current live version of Chi Brew is just never taken by brewmasters ever,
No.
because it goes against a lot of things that it goes against chi pooling, and we just don't really need burst anyway. But this one, it's still a lesser output than Ascension and Power Strikes, but there are definitely some situations where it could be useful, like fights that where you're moving around a lot and you're not always hitting on things to generate chi to maximize the other 2 talents, or fights that have a lot of tank swaps. That Elusive Brew, those stacks come in handy when you have to taunt after with no vengeance. So
I can see it being really good at the beginning of a fight, ramping up and getting shuffle very quickly.
yeah, and especially the Elusive Brew, because Elusive Brew is a very slowly building thing that you can't really rely on anyway. So if you can start that fight out with your shuffle
5
up, your
stacks,
Elusive Brew
yeah.
out, then a lot of the brewmasters out there that complain about being squishy in those first 3 seconds can take this talent and not feel bad about it.
That was usually when I was the most nervous when I was tanking, was the first 5 to 10 seconds while I'm getting ramped up, because that's when I drop down to 20% health.
Yeah, when you have no vengeance and no avoidance. Rough.
Yeah. All right, so next big change comes to Rushing Jade Wind. That's replacing Spinning Crane Kick now instead of being a separate talent. So what it happens is you're going to summon a whirling tornado around you and deal damage to nearby enemies. That sounds very similar to the Diablo 3 monk talent that had the whirlwind as well, which I loved. So it also heals nearby allies for Mistweavers as well. It lasts twice as long as Spinning Crane Kick, instant, and not channeled. This is a big change, and we're going to have to play around with this one to figure out if it's any good. So, Sunnier, what do you think about this change?
I played around with it on the PTR, and it is awesome. The big thing is that you can do stuff while it's active. So you can rush in whole mobs with Rushing Jadewind and then keg smash right away. You don't have to do the awkward timing of oh, do I have time to cast for 4 seconds? Will keg smash come up in that time? And it's pretty much, it'll become your go-to talent for any fight that has sustained AoE. Shuin will still be a good choice for when you need burst AoE on a 3-minute cooldown, but this talent is definitely going to see some good use next year, I think.
Which is always good to have that option. That's what I really love about that talent system, is that you can choose based on the fight. And most of the time you go Zuin, and so having this choice is awesome. Now if they can make Cheat Torpedo any good for us, then that'd be good too. All right.
Yeah.
Duke, speaking of Cheat Torpedo, you going to switch for this?
It really depends. It's an interesting change. For one thing, Spinning Crane Kick sucks for Mistweavers. It just don't use it unless you absolutely need to do both damage and healing in the same global cooldown. It just sucks your mana away. This is really interesting because I'm doing other things while this is spinning up around me. Personally, I'm a big fan of Cheat Torpedo because it's movement and healing and damage in a directed manner. So I can go where I need to be and do whatever I need. But this one's going to really compete against that. I think it's going to bump Zuen to third in preference for Mistweavers.
Yeah, it seems like Zuen is mainly just a damage output for Mistweavers, not much healing.
Yeah, it's why you see a lot of people that do 5-bans or LFR taking it, because you don't need to pump out that much healing. Just stick a tiger on them.
Right. All right, Windwalkers. I use Spinning Crane Kick all the time when there's heavy AoE, but it needs to be a lot of AoE. Now, is this going to change since we can keep our rotation?
Well, so one thing, I understand I talk a lot, and if you wanted my opinion on the Chi Brew change, I can give you that too. Because he did leave out Windwalkers for that, I think. But anyway,
yeah.
With Russian Jade Wind, I mean, what's neat about it is that you cast it, it's up for a relatively long time, it's on a 2-second cooldown, and it allows you to continue your rotation. It costs 40 energy, it gives you 1 chi, so it's a way to generate chi, and while you're generating chi, you also have a way to dump chi using your regular rotation. So, just with target dummy practice in the PTR, it was just using the same gear from live. It's a pretty big increase, and you just, as soon as it's off cooldown, pop it up again in any kind of AoE situation. So it's really cool. Because right now the problem with Spinning Crane Kick is that with the spin cycle enabled, you're generating all this chi, and you maybe will pop off the Rising Sun Kick and a Tiger Palm when you need to, but you still have all this chi, and when you're doing that, you're not generating any Tiger's Eye Brew, which is what we need for that awesome damage output. So this should allow us to build chi, dump chi, and build Tiger's Eye Brew while creating a lot of damage and a really cool visual effect.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the visual effect. I always stay off the PTR because the sky's falling, as you said. So I always try to stay away from that. So I can't wait to actually see the visual effect of it. I think it's going to be pretty cool.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's feathers flying everywhere. It's
Feathers. You got like
Sweet.
jade dust going from the ground up into some tornado. It's awesome. It's gonna look great with everything turned up, and get enough. When you do the flex rating monk, you're gonna see nothing but a giant green cloud above every boss.
And about 1 frame per second.
Yeah, probably.
And
Alright,
like that random geek in chat, like he says, he's looking forward to it because of the bats on Tortos. So I guess that's a good thing for Windwalkers as well, at least on DPS.
Any kind of massive ad.
Yeah, that's always where we break the chart, is those bats on Tortos. That's probably where you get to close to 1 million DPS, which is ridiculous. All right. Chi Burst no longer requires a target, so this is becoming the new Rushing Jade Wind. It now travels a 40-yard line in front of you, and so that basically replaces that functionality of Rushing Jade Wind. So Zen's Fear, they're trying to keep that one competitive, giving it more healing and damage, 15%. Still don't know too many people are going to take that, but we'll see. They're trying.
It's really good if you're a dedicated tank healer, but if you're a monk as a dedicated tank healer,
something's wrong.
What are you doing?
Yeah. All right, so glyphs. We've got some new glyphs. Glyph of Crackling Jade Lightning has been replaced with Glyph of Nimble Brew. That causes Nimble Brew to heal the monk when it clears the root, stun, fear, or horror effect. So it gives you a little boost to healing, which is nice. Glyph of Expel Harm has been replaced with Glyph of Rapid Rolling. That makes the next roll or chi torpedo go farther after using a roll or chi torpedo. So basically, if you roll twice in a row, you go even further?
Yeah, it's like 5 yards.
Yep.
Okay.
5 yards further.
So probably more of a PvP thing.
I think the first two so far are. The Nimble Brew change is definitely a PvP change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people who took the Crackling Jade Lightning one. That one was mainly PvP glyph also.
I don't even remember what it does.
I think it
A knock.
doubles a knockback.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Increases the DPS of it when it knocks back people, I think. I don't know.
Yeah,
I've never
something
used
like
it.
that. I saw PvP. That's all I saw.
Well, maybe
I
for
was like,
questing as
"Gone."
well.
Maybe.
So Glyph of Retreat, which lowered our threat, has been replaced with the Glyph of Fortuitous Spheres, which causes a healing sphere to be summoned near the monk at no cost when the health falls below 25%. Can occur more than once every 30 seconds.
This is going to be awesome for Brewmasters. It's probably going to be one of our staple glyphs that we'll be sad to let go of should we need something else. But we already have a lot of tools for dropping at low health, and this is just another thing to use, so it's pretty great.
Yeah, because those things actually can hit pretty hard, especially if you allow Vengeance. I don't know. I'm assuming it's going to follow the same rules as your regular heal sphere.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if it's like actually the same spell or not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it's like the same or whether it's colored differently or something like that, so you know it's there. And if it stacks with Vengeance, then that thing can heal you quite significantly.
Yeah, it's basically a cooldown.
Okay, so Glyph of Stone Skin has been replaced with Glyph of Detox. This causes Detox to heal the target when it successfully removes a harmful effect. That's awesome. Bonus heals when they're going to be taking damage anyways. So, I think for the Brewmaster, though, Stone Skin is one of the staples.
It wasn't one of the staples, but there were 2 fights where it was useful, and 2 is more than 0. But I mean, it's not that important. It's just like, oh, I used it. It's not like Glyph of Crackling Jade Lightning, where it's like I don't even know it.
Well, you just replace it with Fortuitous Spheres, and you're good to go.
Yeah, not
All
a
right,
big loss.
And heavy dispel fights like Horidon, like we were just talking about, that's going to be great because you're constantly hitting Detox, and that's just going to heal the people who need it. So, Transcendence. I think this one is going to be awesome. Now decreases cooldown by 5 seconds instead of increasing the range. That was one of the biggest problems I've had with Transcendence, is that it's never ready when I need it. So what do you think, Air? Are you going to use that more?
If I wish they would make the extra distance baseline, because in a fight, to really make Transcendence very useful, you almost need that extra 10 yards to use it. So it'd be nice to have a much lower cooldown, but I mean, the shorter range of it now, it does limit its availability, especially because it already has a cast time. There's a setup time as well to cast as well. So I mean, I'm hoping for more. I'm not very happy with a lot of these glyphs so far.
Yeah,
Retreat.
I think
Retreat.
Transcendence.
Retreat.
Yeah, Transcendence would be great if it was instant cast.
Mm-hmm.
And also,
Totally.
one quality of life change I would love is if the transfer spell, if the transfer spell was grayed out when you can't use it, when you're too far away. So that way you have a visual indicator, so you're not just like hitting the button like, why am I not going?
Yeah.
I was using that a lot in Dark Animus, and I would waste so much time, and I'm like, okay, nope, can't use it here. Okay, can't use it here. There we go.
One more fight that it's sort of useful on is Iron Khan for getting past the storm part. But the trouble is that by the time you take that 0.472 whatever seconds to cast it, and you're not even all the way, you're not even hit by you're either hit by the tornado. And the fact is that if you do the Tiger's Lust with 2 rolls, you're out of it anyways in almost a second and a half. So it's not worth the time.
Good.
Or flying serpent kick.
Serpent kick, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's just quicker to do it that way. So it's a very situational talent still, and we'll see.
The one fight I used in a lot was Megara, and that one was great. But I don't think the cooldown is going to matter too much. Okay, next, Glyph of Uplift has been replaced by a Glyph of Targeted Expulsion. That expulsion allows expel harm to be used on other players. So this turns the Windwalker into a little bit of a healer.
Here, Tank, have some heals.
Yep, there you go. Uplift. What did Uplift do?
It turned it into a mana cost instead of chi.
Yeah, I don't know anybody that used that glyph, so that's a good change.
Well, you always have mana. You're complaining about having too much chi. Why aren't you taking that, Duke?
Well, no, the thing is that I have chi, therefore I don't have mana, because I don't need mana to cast a chi spell.
Okay. All right.
It's free. Uplift is free.
All right. More tier 16 colors have been data mined. So let's see. We looked at the white one last time. We've got blue and red, which is nice. Let's see if I can do.
And I think the icons have been data mined, and it shows the actual tier pieces with pants. So I'm pretty sure we're not wearing a skirt this tier.
Well, what I've been
It's probably
reading
just
is
the
that
icon for the pants.
Yeah.
on the forums they've been saying that the skirt is going to be an off-tier drop for Mistweavers. So the pants will be part of the actual tier set. And then colors, normals, white, LFR's blue, and Heroic's going to be the red.
Okay.
Flex, who knows?
Okay, so my 4-piece is not legs. All right, everything else but legs. Because I play a female tune, so I need a skirt, you know.
Transmog.
Weird in
Transmog,
pants.
man.
Transmog.
Yeah, true.
All right.
But I'm liking this set. Looks cool.
Legendary Cloak. Proc updates. So the Fenyu, the Fury of Zwen, for mainly Windwalkers, but also probably some Brewmasters. Now does damage based on your attack power instead of weapon damage. This is nice since I can never get a weapon drop for me. So my attack power is much higher than it should be with the weapon I have. So that's going to be good. Gina Kang, Kindness of Chi-Ji. Now increases healing by 5%, up from 3%. Now AoE caps at 5 targets. What do you think about this one, Duke?
You know, we're such a heavy class for overheals that this is going to be fantastic for us, because basically it means that as long as you're overhealing on either the tank or yourself standing in ranged, it's not going to go to waste.
Yeah, any thoughts now, Yuki?
This is basically like another AoE heal for monks, correct?
In a
Essentially,
sense, yeah.
it's an always-on AoE heal. Yeah.
Okay, so it's like a second renewing mist, so I'm not going to complain. That's wonderful. Yeah.
And more healing is good, but less targets.
Yeah.
But if you're into 10-man, that's half of your team getting healed. Man,
Correct.
not quite as good.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking about my team with the 10-man, and for some reason I wasn't thinking about 25. For 25, it might hurt a little bit, but it also depends how many monks are healing in the raid. You should, have all 5 healers as monks, but that's my opinion. Yeah, screw this priest.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's good, and another hot for us. 5 targets. I like it.
All right,
And
great.
let's be thankful for the 5 targets, because if it's based purely on overhealing, you're never overhealing for 100,000. You're overhealing for 10 or 15,000. And if you divide that amongst 24 other people, well, they all got healed for about 100.
Yeah.
The cap at 5 is very good.
Now, my question is, does anybody know if it's a smart heal or it just goes to random people?
I think it's, from what I understand, it's based on proximity. It's like Swiftment for druids. So
Okay.
they've got to be near the other person, and then they get the spillover of an equal amount.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's it for the PTR changes. For now. There'll be more.
Transcendence.
Transcendence. This is basically a 101 series where we'll be tackling guides on a specific spec each time. We're covering gearing, talents, and playstyle tips and tricks. This week we're going to start with Brewmaster. Brewmaster 101. Take it away, Sunnier.
All right, this is a hard thing to do, Brewmaster 101, because it's just I spend like almost a year now writing guides for how to play a Brewmaster, and I'm still not done. But I'll try to stick to the basics and not get too complicated. So your big attacks for Brewmaster is going to be Keg Smash. We keep talking about how overpowered it is because it's the best thing ever. You just want to use that on cooldown to generate your chi. And then use jab when Keg Smash is not available, but you are about to hit energy cap. And then Tiger Palm for filler. But that's just for like your offense chi generation stuff. For defenses, which have become a lot more complicated now with active mitigation, your primary defensive ability is going to be Shuffle, which is the buff granted by Blackout Kick. It's this buff you're going to want to keep active as much as possible. If you do only one thing, keep that thing active because that prevents you from being too squishy, keeps you healable. It's like the most important. After that is Guard, which is, think of it as kind of your big cooldown. Use it when your health dips low unexpectedly or when the boss is about to use a really big attack. You also have Elusive Brew, which is effectively free. You gain 1 charge for every time you crit, or more charges. And you want to use that ability when you're taking lots of melee damage. It's also very good to use early in the fight when you don't have Vengeance, because all your other abilities scale with Vengeance and with the attack power granted through that. But Elusive Brew is always powerful. Since we're monks, we also have a lot of heals. Expel Harm is going to be your biggest heal, and you want to use that one the most often. You also have your level 30 talents, which the most popular one is going to be. Sorry, lost my train of thought.
Chi-Wave?
Chi-Wave. And then it's just like, so many chi things going on here. And then on top of that, you also get random procs Gift of the Ox, which drop little green spheres on the ground, and you have to walk back and forth and pick those up. And those are really great because you can effectively save them up for a few seconds, and then when your health dips low unexpectedly, you just wave back and forth. This is where a lot of our drunken playstyle comes from, is to other people on the playing field. You look like you have no clue what you're doing, but to you're picking up orbs.
One tip I will give here is try to use your heals when you have guard up, as it doubles it. So you'll get twice the benefit of your
spell harm.
It doesn't double,
but it does buff it.
Yeah, I thought it was double. But you're the master. You're the master. I'll leave it to you. But yeah, still try to use it when guard is up because you'll get a buff to it.
Yeah. And the next big thing for Brewmasters is our special mitigation ability, Stagger, which is a little bit confusing because no other tank has this ability. So instead of flat out reducing damage you take, it reduces it, but then deals that damage back to you as a dot. So when thinking about Stagger, think of it as more like Stamina, where it doesn't reduce any damage necessarily, but it makes you a lot easier to heal, and it's a smoothing stat. And then our key ability that works with Stagger is Purifying Brew, which clears that dot. Now for people just starting out, I usually just tell them ignore Stagger because really you need to practice keeping Shuffle up and keeping Guard and Elusive Brew up. And Stagger's not going to be a big issue until you start raiding. For those of you who are raiding, though, it becomes you have to start balancing your chi generation. You have to make good judgment calls on when to purify your Stagger, because purifying a low Stagger is just a waste of chi because you're going to get it again in a few seconds. So usually you want to purify red Staggers, some yellow Staggers. Yellow is a huge range, so you have to basically have to have add-ons to really measure your yellow Stagger well, so you can make a good judgment call. But that'll come later once you're more experienced with all the other stuff. And then next for AoE, which is really important for the people starting out in 5-mans especially. obviously you want to keg smash, and generally you use spinning crane kick instead of jab to lead off that excess energy. Breath of Fire is a great DPS tool. I see a lot of people using it first, which they really shouldn't, because it, unless you have it glyphed, you're wasting chi on DPS instead of surviving, and then they go splat because they don't have blackout kick up. So only use it when you have shuffle up, or you just don't need shuffle because there's not much damage going out anyway. And then finally, use your level 45 talents, especially leg sweep, for a lot of those pulls. I know a lot of people feel very squishy in those at the beginning of AoE pulls, so just run in there, keg smash, leg sweep, and then you're going to be good. And that's pretty much it for the play style. I'll move on to the gearing options. There are two popular builds out there for Brewmasters. There's the Mastery Stand build, which is hit and expertise to the respective caps, and then you try to put everything you can into Mastery. And this build smooths damage intake. It makes you very easy to heal. And it's typically the build I recommend for brand new players because you can't really mess it up. You'll just automatically be easier to heal even if you forget to use some of your abilities. It's also a very popular build for heroic 25-mans because they take so much damage that they have to mitigate it somehow, and Mastery is very good for that. The next build, which is probably the most popular one, is Crit, which is hit and expertise to their caps, and then almost everything into Crit. Some people like to hit different amounts of haste, somewhere between 4 and 8k. It's usually a judgment call depending on what you like to do. And then
I felt that it was when I was tanking, there was a very different feel between 4K and 8K, and you have to really find the sweet spot. Unfortunately, I came from being a Windwalker, so
yeah,
I was at
more.
like 22% haste, which is very different. But once you get your haste in the right spot, that crit build felt really nice. Not to mention that being second place DPS in fights felt nice too.
Yeah, crit is by far and away our best DPS stat. So, and it's also a very good mitigation stat because it buffs elusive brew. So if you go with this build, usually you have to be a little bit faster in your reactions. You have to be good at healing yourself and reacting to bursts of damage. But it's definitely the most popular build for 10-mans and pretty much most people anyway. All right, now for talents, pretty much every single talent is useful, like in some situations. Even Chi Torpedo, it's rare, but it has uses. And so everything is kind of a judgment call. If you're just starting out, there are some talents that I would recommend just based on ease of use, because I know when I start out new classes, I want to not have to think about a million abilities and using stuff on cooldown or whatever. So for level 15, Momentum is probably my favorite talent there for ease of use because it gives you a little speed boost, and all you have to really do is roll, and then you get that benefit. Level 30 is our healing tier, and this choice kind of depends on how much work you want to put into it. Chi Wave is by far the most popular choice, but to make best use of that, you have to target yourself or use a macro. And so if you don't quite feel up to finding that macro or whatever, Zen Sphere is also pretty good because you don't have to think about it, you just keep it up all the time. And also if your health drops really low, Zen Sphere has that emergency burst heal that can come in use sometimes. Level 45, all three are very good. Leg Sweep is probably the easiest to use because you don't have to aim it. And most things are stunnable, not bosses, but pretty much everything else. Level 60, the most popular talent is Ascension, which increases your maximum chi and increases your energy regeneration as well. And that comes, it's very handy for brewmasters because we tend to pool chi anyway, and that energy regeneration works really well. And in most cases, it's also the best output. You get the most chi from specking this into Ascension. So it's all around the best choice, really. Level 75, again, for newbies, I recommend healing elixirs because the other two choices, while they're much better in a raid environment, require that you remember to use them, and they're not that useful in like 5-mans. Whereas healing elixirs is a pretty significant heal that doesn't require vengeance, and you don't have to remember to use it. It just shows up sometimes if you're lucky. And then finally, level 90, Shuin is the most all-around useful talent in that tier. It's very good for AoE DPS, and he also can taunt guys off of you, which is sometimes not useful, but sometimes it is. And that's it for talents. Again, for glyphs, the top 3 that I recommend would be Glyph of Breath of Fire, which adds a disorient to your Breath of Fire, which makes it more or less defensive, so if you use it very often, you can disable your normal mobs and reduce some damage that you're taking. Similarly, Glyph of Spinning Crane Kick removes the movement reduction on that skill, which just makes it easier to use, so you can run around picking up stuff much better. And then finally, Glyph of Enduring Healing, which makes your Gift of the Ox orbs stay up longer. And this glyph is always surprisingly useful because you can save up giant pools of Gift of the Ox, and then even if you're moving around a lot, they'll still be there later. You can always return and pick them up for a nice big heal. And then finally, for tips and tricks, I wrote a post on this a couple months ago that's still mostly valid on my blog, but the short form is that you should save your big cooldown abilities for when you need them, not when they're instantly available. This mostly comes up with Guard, because Guard is extremely powerful cooldown, and just on a 30-second cooldown, it's really great. And you're always tempted to use it because it's an absorb, and it's always mostly effective, but that's not really the way your damage intake works. You want to use it when your healers need the most help topping you off. Also, I mentioned this earlier, but you want to pool energy, which means like keep your energy relatively high, usually around 40 to 60, so that when Kinetic Smash comes off of cooldown, you can use it immediately, and that'll just increase your chi generation quite significantly. And also, you want to sit on around 2 to 3 chi at all times, so you can use Guard or Purifying Brew very quickly. It's all about preparing for expected or unexpected damage when you're playing a Brewmaster. So pooling those 2 resources will help in that regard. I also want to remind everyone to just swap talents and glyphs often, because we have a lot of very useful talents and glyphs, and they're very situational. And it's good. It's a good exercise to get into whenever you're doing a new fight, thinking about what mechanics does this fight have, and what might be good. What tools do I have that I can change into that will make this easier? And finally, Proving Grounds obviously aren't here yet, but if you need to practice, then go try to solo the normal level 90 dungeons. That's always a really good test of skill in its low-pressure environment, so that's what I did when I was learning. And I think that's it.
All right. Thank you so much, Sanir, for the Brewmaster 101 and a good tanking 101. All right. Next time, we'll be doing a different spec. Should be fun.
Zen Pilgrimage.
So Zen Pilgrimage is where we look at the monk community, which is awesome. So we had a couple of questions. Actually, one question on Twitter from @DrinkOck. On Twitter, he asked, when do you use Storm, Earth, and Fire in fights? So here's it's very, very situational. But in general, use when you have 2 to 3 targets that are of equal priority and will be alive longer than 10 seconds. This allows you to get that boost after the global cooldowns have been used. Note that if you're attacking the same target as your clone, you do not get the bonus. They're not going to mirror your abilities. So you want to make sure that you're cleaving. You're thinking of it as a cleave. So you want to have 2 to 3 targets that you're attacking. And Error, anything else?
I mean, just to reiterate, yeah, I mean, you want to make sure that they're going to be alive long enough where you can use essentially 4 global cooldowns, 1 for a clone, 1 for the second clone, and a reapply Rising Sun Kick and reapply Tiger's Power. So, they will mirror your abilities. So if they're getting low on health, throw out a Chi Wave. They will actually, you get 3 different little fireworks flying around everywhere, which is kind of cool. In heavy AoE situations like the bats on Tortoise, a lot of the trash leading up to Tortoise, like all the groups of Zendalari, they tend to stay up for a little bit longer amount of time. So pop them on there, use them, spec into Rushing Jade Wind, and just watch the tornadoes go out, initiate the spin cycle, and watch them die.
Yep, that's a lot of DPS going out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now Yuki?
I have a quick question on the Storm, Earth, and Fire, mostly for Windwalkers. Is there like a special macro? Because I heard before you guys have a focus macro mostly for the Horidon fight, but is there one for like quick trash, like a quick macro for that certain spell?
I have mine set up as essentially a mouse over macro, where I just hit one key that I'm clicking over, it sends it out, so I don't have to leave my old target. So I just use that, and I also have a cancel aura set up to that as well too, for quickly recalling the clones and everything like that. So there's a few different posts in different forums you can find, or you just create, on mouse over cast Storm or Earth and Fire, and you'll be all set to go.
Yeah, there's a nice add-on called Storm, Earth, and Fire. Appropriate. It will track which targets your clones are on, and it will give a little audible chirp if you target the same target that your clone is attacking, and it will come up in red, so you know not to attack that one. So nice. That's a good add-on to use.
Cool.
Yeah, weak auras is another good way to track it as well too.
Yeah, weak auras is always the answer. You can do everything with that thing.
If you can figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a look at some of the hosts' projects. Biggest one, Sunnier. You have a great blog, sunniersartofwar.com. You've been working on that quite a while, haven't you?
Yeah, I think it's 2 years old. I mean, if you count my druid stuff, but...
Oh, no, we don't count druid stuff. No.
Yeah, so it's however old monks are.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. Her site taught me I should never tank on a druid.
Yeah, that's the lesson you learn. Unless you like saying
right
big
lesson.
bear butt.
I'm not talented enough to do it. That's what I learned. Stick to healing.
All right, so shout-outs. I'm going to shout out to Navox for our awesome new logo. If you're on Twitch, you're seeing that in the lower right-hand corner. The YouTube channel does have that up at the top of the channel art as well. It looks wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Now, you had a shout-out?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Rex for giving me a raid spot, and also to all the new followers and all the people supporting me in real life and supporting the show. I also want to give a shout out to Ro in the Twitch chat room for giving us a shout out on Realm Podcast episode 48, and I also want to congratulate him on his big episode 50 and to many, many more.
Yeah, congratulations, Ro. All right, Air?
Just a shout out to our supporters. I mean, the feedback on Twitter, in the game, has been, it's been fantastic. It definitely means a lot. Makes us all feel good about this stuff. And maybe not a shout-out, but a plea for help from the devs. Please give us a raid cooldown. Please. Thank you.
Drake Onk on Twitter also brought up, we really need a statue. Mistweavers and Brewmasters, they have statues. Where's our statue? Give it to us.
Used to be one.
Yeah.
All right.
But really, thanks, everyone. Thanks so much.
Definite a big shout out to all of our very new friends that we've made through this podcast. Got a couple in particular. The Forthright Guild on Moonguard has been very open and receiving. They've been big fans of us, and I've been talking to their Brewmaster Monk on an almost every other day basis. It's just amazing how friendly monks are. But I've got a special shout out for our own Naoyuki from Rex, who, and I quote, was healing like a boss last night. So,
like a
big
boss.
props to Naoyuki.
All right. Good job,
I
Naoyuki.
didn't see that one. Thank you.
All right. So there's been some new blogs in the community that I want to point out. Legacy of the Brew, nimblebrew.blogspot.com. That's another blog for brewmasters. So if you want another point of view from Sunnier, this is a good one. It's only been active for about a month, and it already has nearly 20 posts, so it's pretty active. Which
is a really good sign for a brand new blog. Once you get a lot of posts out there, get regular, that's a good sign. So I hope he keeps it up.
Yep, keep it up. So it has an interesting combination of the traditional personal weblog. Yeah, I did this today. I did this in the game, and high-level guides. So you get a little bit of a mix. And he's also going to run a couple of contests for TCG loot cards to encourage the monk community, and so stay tuned to that. Speaking of which, he donated one to us. So we're going to be giving that away. He's provided a Landro Little XT to give away on the show. So if you want this little guy, and he's an excellent battle pack.
Killer.
Yes. Train Killer, which is worth it myself. I want to get this. So
can't win your own contests.
Damn it. All right. So if you want this guy, message me on Twitter. My handle is @WowMonk. Says so right there. Okay. So what is your favorite upcoming 5.4 change? What's your favorite one? Include the hashtag MonkMeditationXT. We'll give it away on the next show. So message @WowMonk. What's your favorite change? Hashtag MonkMeditationXT. All right. So, iTunes reviews. What do we have here? I saw we had 2 of them up today. 3, actually, but one's from Naoyuki. They don't count.
Yeah. For me.
Bruce Willis, who I want to give a shout out to for paying attention to, or for joining our team, Rolling Thunder, and helping us fill out a slot for a while. He gave us a 5-star review. Thank you so much. The other one also comes from my raid team. He says that I'm his raid leader, so he is forced to make this, which may or may not be true. Watching you, Garen. All right, Garen Resto Shaman from Airy Peak, US. So please rate us on iTunes and subscribe on YouTube. Also subscribe on twitch.tv. And we're also available on Stitcher podcast directory, so watch us there. So I want to thank you all for listening. You can watch us live in another 2 weeks. The next recording will be Tuesday, August 13th at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also watch after the fact on iTunes, Stitcher, monkmeditation.com, and twitch.tv/wowmonk. This isn't just our podcast. We want it to be yours. So let us know where to find you. Twitch, Twitter, in-game, wherever else. Help us prove the monk community is the greatest community in World of Warcraft. Reach out to us individually or email the show, monkmeditation@gmail.com. So where can everyone follow you at? For me, you can reach me in-game as Chai T, CHAITHI, on Airy Peak or Argent Dawn US. You can also reach me on Twitter @WowMonk, And my battle tag is Chai T number 1806. So I also stream live Fridays and Mondays at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 Eastern at twitch.tv/wowmonk. Now, Yuki, where can we find you?
You could find me on Twitter at naoyuki_CTR, just like we're here, like you did. Yeah. To spell that for the audio is NAOYUKI_CTR, or you can find me in-game on Airy Peak, US as Naoyuki. My battle tag is Naoyuki number 1840, or you can email me at naoyukictr@gmail.com. No underscore in that one.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Daikatsu, how can we reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Daikatsu, DAIKATSU CTR, and you can find me in-game as Daikatsu again on Airy Peak US. But please feel free to reach out to me through my battle tag. That's DUKROUS number 1538.
Great. Thank you. Air, where can we reach you at?
Well, you can find me on the Twitterverse at AirMonk, and you can find me in the world of Azeroth on US Airy Peak in the CTR Kazakh Guild. That is Air, spelled AYR.
All right, thank you. Sunir, where can we find you?
Well, you can find all of my contact information on my blog at sunyersartofwar.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at SunyearBear.
Go ahead.
Or you can add my battle tag, which is SunyearPound1336.
All right. So, Monk Meditation is a World of Warcraft fan podcast. Copyright 2013. Certain audio portions belong entirely to Blizzard Entertainment, and no copyright infringement is intended. So, thank you so much for coming back to Monk Meditation. Episode 1 is in the can. Thank you.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.